Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to Age of Wonders 4! To say that I am excited about this game would be an understatement. I've been a big fan of Age of Wonders 3 and Planetfall for a while now. If you're not already familiar, this is a fantasy 4X strategy game where you design your own empire and subjugate entire realms of existence. Whether that be through force, diplomacy, or a heck of a lot of magic is up to you. I want to extend a big thank you to Paradox Interactive for getting me early access to this game and sponsoring today's video, though if I'm honest with you, the sponsorship was kind of unnecessary. Before they even made the offer, I had already sunk about 40 hours into this game, and I've been absolutely loving it. So if you also are excited and you like what you see and you want to learn more, there will be a link in the description down below. If you do want to pick up the game for yourself, the good news is you don't have long to wait. The game is releasing on May 2nd, so not much longer now. Anyway, I'm guessing you guys would like to see me jump into the action. Sure, let's start up a new game. Now, there's obviously a fair bit of lore that goes into a game like this, and I can't explain all of it right now, but I will say that the story events of Age of Wonders 4 do directly tie into the events of Age of Wonders 2, in which the Wizard Kings, the Godir, were banished into the Astral Void, and they are now breaking free of that prison and influencing the realms of Athla once again. So those realms are going to be like the maps for this game, and there are a number that we can choose from, or we can create our own with various different customized traits. So for example, maybe I want to create a realm that is overgrown with forests and is haunted by immortal spirits, but there's a great deal of magical crystals in abundance and it has a smaller underground. These are all things that we can do. Now I'm going to play a game with 4 players in total, including myself, on a normal difficulty, and we will use classic turns for this game, although simultaneous turns is an option if that strikes your fancy. Now we choose a faction. There are a number that you can pick from that are pre-built, but let's be honest, creating your own faction is half the fun. You'll start by choosing your race, and there are a number to choose from, which mostly affects physical appearance, but every race does have their own default body and mind traits. However, you can swap these out for whatever you want, so you're not limited to a particular playstyle with a specific race. I'm going to try playing with a goblinoid. Except I am going to swap out their default mind trait for Overwhelm Tactics. Now we get to decide what our starting culture is going to be like, and there are 6 to choose from. Each of these different cultures are going to have different cultural units associated with them, plus different affinities of magic they are drawn to, and some other special bonuses. For example, the feudal culture has access to better food buildings, their units are stronger when they are close together, and they have a special unique mechanic called Feudal Lords. I'm going to go for the Mystic culture, which means more mana income plus a special attunement for our race called Star Blades. Every time we cast a spell in combat, we will start doing extra fire, lightning, and frost damage, and it can stack up to 3 times. This is going to work really well for what I have in mind. With your culture defined, you can then refine that culture further with society traits, which are associated with different affinities of magic. I'm going to go for something called Mana-Addict. Now, this is not available for you as soon as you open up the game. You do have to play the game a little bit to get this unlocked, but I've got it for you. And what this does is gets me another attunement spell for my race called Mana-Addicted. Every time we cast a spell, we gain lifesteal for that turn. However, if we don't cast any spells, we lose morale. So basically, if we want to use a lot of combat spells, we get more damage and we get to heal ourselves, which is incredibly powerful, but we have to keep casting spells every turn or else our army gets demoralized. In order to help facilitate this, I'm going to pair this up with something called Gifted Casters, which is going to let me cast more spells in a single combat, and it makes those spells cheaper. More spells, stronger, happier, mana-addicted goblins. Alright, our race is defined, now we need to select our first Tome of Magic, and each of these are associated with the different affinities. I'm going to go for something called the Tome of Pyromancy, which is going to get me some direct fired spells, as well as a special province improvement called Ritual Pyre around forests, which gets me extra mana income. More mana, more spells, stronger units. Are you sensing a theme here? And now we get to define our starting hero, our leader of our empire. Now, for playing as a Wizard King, we actually don't have to play with the starting race. We could have someone else influencing them. I think it could be kind of fun to actually play as an elf, who basically tricks all these goblins becoming mana addicts so that she can control them. Yeah, that's devious. We can try messing a bit with the outfit, kind of create a character that I'm feeling really happy with. This looks pretty sick. Maybe change up the cape a little bit. This kind of looks cool, actually. I like this. How about we name this character Vesh Feyborn, the Painted Lady, which is kind of an unusual title, but I think it fits for an exotic mystic culture. And our race are going to be the Void-Scarred Gobbies. Yeah, this works for me. Let's get started. And welcome to our new world. My gosh, you have to admit this game is absolutely gorgeous. All right, so we have a few starting spells: Ignite, Cosmic Ablation, and Magic Shield. All of those can be actually pretty darn good. So this is our starting city. Portentium, I guess that could be fine. If you want to, we could rename the city. How about, High Point? I think that kind of works for me. All right, so in your starting city, there's a lot of things that you need to keep track of. You have food, which represents how quickly your population grows, and the faster your population grows, the more you can expand your borders and grab provinces for more resources. So this is kind of important, and it's something I prioritize. You also need production to construct various different types of buildings, and you want draft if you want to train up some units. I'm going to go ahead and start training another scout right away. There's also some global resources like gold generation, mana crystals, research, and Imperium. We'll cover more of that later. For now, the most important thing is to start scouting and grabbing nearby resources and looking for opportunities to expand. Also, with your hero's army, if you see some small groups nearby that might be, let's say, blocking off a resource node, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and attack them and start farming out some experience for your units. And just for the sake of it, I'm going to go ahead and show you how that works. So let's right-click here. We could do auto combat, but I'm going to go into manual combat. Now, the battles are turn-based tactical in this game, so we're going to let our armies move a little bit closer to each other. Every unit is going to have 3 action points. You can spend up to 2 of them on movement, and the further away you are, the more those action points it takes. So, for example, if I move my hero unit up over here, I spend 1 action point. Move up over here, I spend 2, but now I'm at least in range of the enemy, so we can attack. It's usually a good strategy to let the enemy come to you, at least to some degree. Meet them halfway, so that when your turn comes around, you have lots of action points to work with, and you can do a lot of damage. So I'm going to move, let's say, probably right about here, and that's where I'm going to stop. We can go ahead and defend. So I'm using the rocks as a choke point here. Let's go ahead and end the turn. They're going to start moving closer to me. They didn't do a lot, but now I can spend all 3 of my hero's action points lobbing attacks over at this enemy if we want to. Better than using only 1, right? Now, before we do that, let's remember we have those really cool attunements. So I'm going to go ahead and use something here called Ignite, and we're going to try setting this on fire, for example. But the most important thing is, notice we just got the Star Blades and the Lifesteal. So we'll do even more damage with our hero and our other units. Okay, we took out 1 of them. We're going to let them have their chance to move and do some range damage against us. We'll have a chance to attack them if they leave our zone of control. They're trying to hit some of my support units. That's annoying, but we can now flank them with our pikemen and do a lot of damage. Bada boom. Perfect. And that should just about finish these guys off. That's how a lot of combat works. Positioning and pacing yourself, right? Trying to draw the enemy to you is a really key aspect for this game. And remember, because of the way we're working this build, I want to be casting spells pretty much all the time. That's how we stack up our power. That's how we're going to win. Anyway, by getting rid of this neutral army, we get some rewards, including mana crystals and some armor. If I want to go to my hero, we can actually equip some items like so and enjoy a little bit of extra defense. Before we end our first turn, we should definitely select some research up at the top left, and this is going to come from your Tomes of Magic. There are different options available. If you don't like any of these, we could just shuffle the research. That said, I kind of like the idea of being able to summon some magma spirits at will by spending my mana. It's pretty good in a pinch, so let's go ahead and choose that. Now, as your hero fights and gains experience, they will be able to level up, and over here we can choose from a number of different skills. Basically, it's broken down into martial combat, magical combat, and support spells or talents that are going to boost up your entire army. For now, I think I want to focus mostly on making my character more magical focused. We do magic range damage right now, so it might make sense to pick up Star Blades for my hero, so they also benefit from combat spells, or we could, let's say, start channeling lightning and things like that. So that could all be pretty good. Now here's something unique that we really want to take advantage of as a mystic culture specifically. Normally you can find little piles of mana or gold around the world. Maybe they're guarded, maybe they're not. As a mystic culture, you can find something special over here. This is a special astral echo pickup that only mystic cultures can see. The more of these we pick up, the better, because they get me extra mana crystals and research in the early game. Plus, eventually we'll have access to a special mystic culture building that will benefit from having collected a lot of astral echoes. And that's why picking up scouts as a mystic culture is extra important. High Point has grown, so we can actually annex our first territory. Now, what you choose is going to depend a little bit on what you want. I do find that going for a lot of early game food can be helpful, because the more you grow, the more of this territory you can grab, right? It can kind of snowball out of control. That said, something to keep in mind, some of these buildings, in fact, most of them actually, can get boosted in the sense that half of their production costs can be met automatically if you have met some other requirements. So, for example, for the library, get 1 forester attached to the city. Instead of 5 turns, it'll take 2 or 3 turns, right? You can deliberately build that, right? Choose what kind of upgrades you want in order to, let's say, boost up granaries, or maybe some production buildings, right? And that can help you snowball a little bit further. So depending on what the terrain looks like, you want to pick and choose carefully. My hero has leveled up again. I'm going to go ahead and pick up Distant Evocation so I get extra range for my attacks. The more range we have, generally the easier it's going to be to maneuver around the battlefield and make sure that my Painted Lady is out of harm's way, but also nuking all of my enemies. Now, something I want to do is probably settle down a second city as soon as makes sense. This is a corner of the map, and there's going to be kind of a little bit of room to grow, not an absolute ton, but it's going to be a very safe location for me to start generating a lot of resources. Plus, there's an Ancient Wonder over here at only a bronze tier difficulty. We can clear this thing out. If annexed into a city, it's going to get me a lot of extra research and such. This could be pretty decent for me. So I'm going to actually move my hero over here, and clicking on this area, we can see the different regions, right? I'm going to build an outpost in this region and eventually upgrade this into a city. Ah, we have met a free city. Okay, usually there's going to be at least one free city kind of close by to you that's based off of your primary race. So when you meet some neutral parties like this, what you can do is give them a Whispering Stone, which actually I already had in my city, so let's go ahead and withdraw this, and we'll send it over to them here. And this is going to start boosting up allegiance. Eventually, if we can get this up here from a pact of cooperation into willing vassalage, they'll join my empire as a vassal, and we can integrate them and control their city later on. Or leave them as a vassal if we so choose. That's completely fine. The only problem with this is other nations, if they meet this city-state, are going to be trying to win their allegiance as well, and we really don't want to lose that fight. So we have to invest in this as early as possible and hopefully pick them up before anyone else does. Now, you may be wondering what these red borders are down here. These are called infestations, and they're kind of like barbarian camps. Right now, these are asleep, and they're relatively weak. Over time, though, they will awaken and start spawning enemies which are going to try to raid your territory. So the sooner you can crush these, generally speaking, the better. If you're very unlucky, you'll spawn next to a gold level ritual circle, which will take like 20-something turns to awaken, but might start sending, I don't know, like dragons your way or something. I mean, that can be pretty disastrous. So keep an eye on these guys. Don't take them lightly. Clear them out, though, and you remove the threat, and you typically get a lot of really good rewards. So it's worth doing early on. Now, we have researched our first unit enchantment, Searing Blades. What this does is it's going to boost up all polearm, shock, shield, fighter, and skirmisher units in our army, of which we currently only have 2. It's going to take away some physical damage, but give them fire damage and chance of inflicting burning. These kinds of spells can be used as many times as you want, right? You can have as many unit enchantments in the game as you want. However, they do cost some of your mana per turn, so you're really limited by your mana production. That said, having lots of unit enchantments is a very good way of boosting up your army. Case in point, it's done researching. Let's go ahead and cast the enchantment. It's going to cost me 4 mana per turn because I have 2 units, and it costs 2 per unit. But now, all these guys have an upgrade for their weapons. That looks pretty cool, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade this city. It's going to cost me 200 Imperium. That is a resource that we have been generating up over here. If we want to start upgrading things like Wizards Towers and stuff in our capital city, we can generate more, but otherwise this is a very precious resource. Not only for expanding your empire or perhaps performing diplomatic actions like we could down over here, but also because this is how you're going to be starting to build out your culture with different affinities of magic. If I click over here under Empire Development, you can see that we have 4 Astral Affinity and 2 Chaos Affinity. This is from my Tomes of Magic, plus some of the decisions we made in our culture selection. As we start building up more of this affinity, we unlock different passive bonuses that we can spend Imperium to unlock. For example, under Chaos, maybe I want to spend 75 Imperium, making all Tier 1 units cost 30% less upkeep. With certain builds, this is an unbelievably powerful thing to grab. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and practically double my gold income from that one action. I'm also going to go ahead and pick up basic seafaring. That means we can now start traversing over the ocean and find out what the heck is going on different continents. Looks like we may have met another player, somebody who doesn't particularly like me. Okay, we could send them some welcoming gifts, but, nah, I don't think so. I think we'll just kind of leave them be. We're probably gonna have to conquer these rats later on. When you finish researching a sufficient number of spells from your existing tome, you will be able to select a new one. I'm probably going to go ahead and pick up the Tome of Evocation. I don't really benefit from getting the Evoker, but some of these spells are going to be pretty good as far as upgrading my physical damage characters, plus Lightning Focus works very well for a lot of casting units. So this is kind of an okay choice for me. Other options might include, let's say, Tomes of Enchantment, so we can get better shielded units eventually, but this isn't beneficial to me immediately, or maybe something like the Tome of Roots, so we can have some healing units instead. We have managed to upgrade this outpost into a city. Excellent. Every time you get a new city, you'll have the option to recruit another hero, because the number of heroes you can have is limited by the number of cities you own. Most of these guys are a little bit outside of what I can afford at the moment, but we can get a sense of what this looks like. So we can start with some level 1 heroes, maybe have something with Beast Trainer or Astral Adept, etc. Or level 3 heroes, which would probably be even better if I'm willing to spend the money. Anyway, once you have that extra hero, you can assign them to become the governor for one of your cities, and depending on their culture and any other traits, sometimes you'll get some extra resources. In my case, a fair bit more mana crystals. Oh, now here's something that I simply cannot tolerate. It looks like my enemies have decided to set up an outpost in my continent on a resource that I want. There's a rare resource right here called Archon Blood. Yeah, I'm not letting them do that. Absolutely not. I would rather go ahead and declare war and destroy your outposts. So let's go ahead and lay siege to this thing and get ready to destroy it. I can unlock another tier of Tomes of Magic. What makes sense here? Tome of Scrying, so we can get more vision, or Tome of Amplification for more arcane magic. This makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons, including spells that mean that our mages will do more damage every time they attack, plus Chain Lightning, plus a race transformation, so that we get another attunement for our goblins called Fortune. Every time we cast a spell, we'll get a stack of Fortune, which means more critical hit chance. Again, we just get stronger the more spells we cast. This works perfectly. I think we're ready to cast that Astral Blood, which is going to change the appearance of our species, which I actually think is really kind of cool. You start getting crazier and crazier looking guys. I mean, look at this. Looks like they're covered in woad. This fits the theme so stinking well, and it really does synergize with what we've already got built for ourselves. Jumping forward a fair bit, our empire is growing fairly nicely, still only at 3 cities, but I do have 2 willing vassals working for me, and I'm getting kind of sick of Triway sending troops up this way to constantly raid me. So I think we might want to go ahead and start laying siege to this city. Not too complicated, you simply take an army that is led by a hero, right-click over here, and you can start a siege. Now, depending on what kind of defenses they have, it may take a while to create a breach, but we can speed that up if we want to add some siege projects. This usually costs some money or maybe some mana or something, but it's pretty darn effective, so maybe I would want to get, let's see, you've got some archer battlements and you've got some ballista towers. We could break the battlements, and we could bombard their towers, or we could ignore those and get some onagers as a bunch of extra units. Yeah, a couple of extra siege units could be kind of nice. Let's go ahead and do that. If we wanted to be extra mean to Triway, one thing we could do is actually cast a spell against them. For example, Lightning Torrent. Do damage to all of their units and make them more vulnerable to lightning damage, which it so happens I do. Yeah, I mean, this probably isn't necessary, but it's gonna feel pretty good, and it reduces the likelihood that I take any casualties. So let's go ahead and strike them. And then we are going to launch the invasion. Taking down an enemy city is about what you would expect. The enemy does start off in a defensive position. There are only a handful of breaches in the walls we can use. They've got the high ground, and in this case, they've also got a whole bunch of towers that they can use against me, which I don't really appreciate. So I'm going to go ahead and try to blast some of these things down before they have a chance of taking a shot at me, and then consolidate my troops into the center. And from there, we should be able to mow these guys down. Actually, those towers have a longer range than I thought they did. Okay. Cool thing, by the way, every time they cast a spell, I benefit from it. Look at all those bonuses going across my units. I'm using their own spells against them to make myself stronger. Ugh, man, this is... Attunement builds are pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. Can also use my onagers. We do have these up and running. All right, let's go ahead and launch a few boulders over here. You can actually create more breaches in the walls, too, if you actually focus your fire, but Honestly, usually just better to go ahead and start going for the kill with the breaches you've already got. Oh yeah, these guys didn't stand a chance. Watch the lifesteal at work here, by the way. Now, I should note, if you heal during combat, you don't actually gain permanent health. What you instead get is temporary hit points, which only last for the battle. I know, your first thought was maybe I can just take some really easy fights, right? And then I'll be able to just heal up my armies in between every major campaign. No. Temporary hit points only last for the battle. You can't farm it out. I know, I tried. Anyway, Triway is now ours, so we have the option to either absorb the Dwarven Lords into our empire as another species, or we can replace them with more of the Void-Scarred Gobbies. I'll go ahead and absorb them, just so we have access to another culture and a whole bunch of different units. Oh, now here's something really nice I've picked up. Alright, so you remember how I mentioned that there were some rare resources to be found on the ground, right? Including things like the Archon Blood, which gets me the extra casting points, etc, etc. Well, there are a handful of different resources in the game, 9 in total, and if you can collect at least one of each in a particular category, you get a set bonus. In this case, with the Cosmoflux Elixir, I am now getting extra knowledge and mana crystals from every mana resource node I've got, which are quite a few, so all of a sudden now I'm making 300 knowledge and 157 mana crystals. And that's actually really, really good for me. Not to mention I've got the extra Imperium income from getting all these different plants, and each one of these is giving me their own benefit as well. So like, this is really good. All I need now is a dang Fireforge stone and we can complete all of the sets. That'd be pretty awesome. Okay, now here's something that's actually going to work really well for my build. So I've got a little bit of progress being made down the Shadow Affinity over here, right? And we've now got access to Death Magic. Gain combat casting points every unit death or kill in a combat. Now, the combat casting points are supposed to be a limitation to how many spells you can cast in a single battle, right? So you don't just, like, turtle up in one corner and do nothing but throw spells at your enemy. But with this, as long as I keep killing, we keep getting to cast more spells. And with more spells, as long as I have enough mana, we keep the attunements going practically forever. So now we practically have infinite spells to cast for our Mana-Addicts. Oh, and this is nice. My Throne City gets 15 more knowledge for every magic material we have access to. And that's a lot of them, so I just got like another 130 or so research per turn just from this one click. Oh, okay. We might actually be able to go for a scientific victory. Wasn't planning on that, but it could work. Ooh, we're now getting into Tier 4 tomes of magic, at least for the ones where we've already gathered up the Tier 3 tomes, so I can continue focusing on mysticism here and get Astral Convergence for lots of really powerful summons, or maybe Astral Mirror to reflect damage. Ooh, I do love the Arcane Maelstrom spell, because this is a siege project that shuts down all towers and does a lot of damage to the enemies. It's pretty darn good, and I plan on going to war pretty much immediately, actually. I'm going to be doing non-stop war from here. We're ready to go ahead and conquer the world. So this makes sense. Let's pick this one up. And yep, all right, I'll go ahead and get this now. Or, ooh, actually, hold on. So remember those minor transformations? There's also major transformations. You can only do one of them for an entire race, but this would allow me to start walking through obstacles, getting a lot of extra mana and knowledge as well. Ooh, this is kind of good. They're both really good. We'll probably be able to get both. Yeah, I think now might be a good time to declare war. Looks like this person's already being murdered over here. We can declare war just to get into their territory, see if it's possible to run in here and siege this city. But if not, this might be an opportunity to go ahead and hit these guys hard while they're somewhat distracted. Kind of a battle of the three armies? I like this idea. Actually, I feel like no matter what, this is the right opportunity to attack these guys. Hit them now, they only can bring in a little bit of reinforcements. I can bring in all of mine, wipe out half of their army, and then it's easy to pick them apart. I'm going to go ahead and declare 2 wars. Let's do it. This is definitely going to be the biggest battle I've been in so far. One of the things that's so great about this particular build is it really fits with the playstyle of what I was going to do anyway, right? When you get into combat like this and you got enough casting points, you got enough mana, you probably want to be casting a spell every single turn no matter what, right? And I'm already doing that, so like, why not just get a lot of extra value for effectively no extra cost? I mean, except for maybe the opportunity cost. And one of the other things that's great about this particular build is you really only need to focus on getting like 3 different unit types. You want your shield units to provide a bulky front and center. You want some support units for some healing and to provide some magical resistance to nearby units, and you want battle mages for your raw DPS. But the thing is, even when you start casting spells, or even better yet, when your enemy's casting spells, all of them get stronger for more damage, including your frontline shield units. So you have a tanky frontline that hits like a truck, and then insane DPS that's able to defend itself. Like, this is just really, really, really strong. I mean, look, they just cast a spell to make themselves stronger. Oh, thanks for that. You just buffed all my units too. Haha. Okay, here they come. They're running in and trying to do a fair bit of damage. They're casting spells, but I'm able to survive a lot of those as long as some of these units don't die. That's fine. Not perfect positioning on my end. They were still able to get around to some of my back line, but not an absolute ton. And the important thing is, now with my support units, for example, let's go ahead and do some healing. That should get these guys back into the fray. And of course, we can cast some more spells of our own. What would make sense? Mass Hysteria. Could do that. I'm looking for anything else that's going to make me a lot stronger. Maybe do a magic shield on a unit that I think is in danger, or yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go. Everyone gets their lifesteal, and now it's my turn. Gosh, we do so much damage just from magical strikes with these spell shields. These guys shouldn't be this dang strong, but they really are. Spell has been cast, we've activated the lifesteal plus the extra damage, and we are also inflicting lots and lots of morale damage on these guys. I mean, pretty soon I actually expect them just to break and run for it instead of actually stand and fight. And so far I've only lost one unit, because it was a polearm unit, one of the non-3 categories I was talking about, right? You're starting to see a little bit of the power of this build. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't more powerful options in this game. Of course there are. But this one is a fairly passive way of playing the game that just works really well. Oh yeah, they're actually about to break. See the little white highlights around their icon over here? Yeah, these guys are now starting to run. So it's now a matter of how much damage can we do before they escape. If they escape at all, which hopefully they won't. Yep, looks like their hero is going to escape. That is the only unit out of all of these. I lost one polearm unit. We call this a really, really good battle. And fun fact, if I just want to replenish on the front lines, what do? I go ahead and summon something like, let's say, a Chaos Eater. One of these guys could be fun. Of course, I'm also now surrounded by so many enemies that depending on who they decide to pick on, we could be in trouble. Maybe they want to clear each other out, or maybe they attack me all at the same time and we're going to be in some trouble. I'm not too sure. Nope, those guys are running away. Well, perfect. Well, in that case, guess what I'm going to do? Lay siege. Let's go ahead and get started with this. It's a metropolis city. We will use our new arcane maelstrom to knock down all of their towers, plus do some extra fortification damage. And one more thing would make sense. We could maybe get rid of their battlements or construct some of those onagers. Yeah, there's enough units here that the AoE could actually be really useful. I'm gonna get some onagers. All right, this should be it. Let's go ahead and cast a lightning torrent on one of their lead armies to get them weaker to lightning, so I'll do even more damage. Any other spells I want to cast? I would love to get the Vessels of Chaos. It's going to take a couple of turns, unfortunately, but would get me the chance of having negative status effects every time we attack enemies, which is obviously pretty good. Random, but really good. Cool. All right, now's the time. It says it's a safe battle. Let's jump into it. Okay, they got their first round of attacks off and did practically nothing. Excellent. Let's go ahead and cast something to make these guys weaker. How about set all this stuff on fire, plus maybe use my onagers for some free hits. Looks like they're getting some star blades as well, which is interesting. All right, so the more spells are cast, the stronger everyone gets. Huh. And they are already prepared to retreat. Okay, so they're gonna get away with a bunch of units, but who cares? As long as I can take down their ruler and also capture the city, that should be enough to finish these guys off. And there we go. Ruler down, battle over. Not a single unit lost, and we captured the city and slaughtered everything in sight. Ah, this build just works, man. It's so good. I know I'm kind of breezing through battles, and you probably like to see this, but it's worth just kind of showing off just the stats of what's going on here. Barely even taking damage at this point, and wiping out massive armies. Wow! Haha, and now we can get the Tome of the Archmage. All right, this is what we need to go for a scientific victory. You need to get up to tier 5 and at least some form of magic. Not to mention you get some really powerful spells out of the arrangement, as is to be expected. But what you can basically do now is in some of your cities, you can replace some of your province improvements with the seed and roots and such of a particular magic type. In this case, if I can get that built up, we can get 3 levels, the Heart, Root, and Seed of Astral, defend that for 15 turns, and then we just outright win. Of course, the AI does love to spawn some Marauders to come and take that down, and everyone's going to be gunning for you, but hey, that's fine, I don't mind. So it's going to take me 12 turns, but let's go ahead and build up the Heart of Astral. And what I'm deliberately doing is setting these up in a position where all 3 pieces of the Astral components are all set up in the same approximate area. Because the game is going to spawn some things to come and try to break these down. I want to have all my armies in one localized spot to defend it. There we go. We have built the Heart of Astral. Okay, so now I need to launch the Age of Astral spell. That's the spell Victory. Makes all of my Astral Affinity stuff really cheap, and I can cast even more spells, plus enemies take damage, plus lots of good stuff. Hold on to this. That's all I need to do. Hold on to it. Oh, okay, looks like the other players have gotten wise. They want to all attack me at once. Honestly, not feeling that worried about it. As long as we defend this, we're fine. And look, there's a giant Marauder army I was talking about. Yeah, that's a lot of units. It's a lot of units. Wow, okay. But you know what? Still should be a safe battle for me. One more turn should just about do it. The AI is focusing too much on all my vassals to worry about me, and we have entered into a new age of Astrum. Beautifully done, Vesh Feyborn, with your goblin armies. Excellent. I mean, it took 109 turns, and there are definitely much faster ways to win the game, but this was a pretty good, solid, normal game of what Age of Wonders 4 can look like using a Mana-Addict build. Gosh dang, this was strong. My armies were really unassailable by the end of this. So many buffs. And now with her conquests, she can ascend to join my pantheon of Godir. Shall we accept that? I think absolutely yes. This is a character I plan on keeping around for the future. Let's see, gained a handful of Pantheon points, alright, 4 of which I'll be able to spend to get some other permanent upgrades every time I play the game, most of which are cosmetic, but that's where something like the Mana-Addict trait comes from. There are a few others that are in here as well, like Banner Lords, that could be kind of fun to get. Or maybe something like Chosen Destroyers, Raising Cities gives you permanent income, my god. Yeah, you put this with a Barbarian Chaos build with lots and lots of Tier 1 units, this would be absolutely insanity. Anyway, guys, that is a quick look at what Age of Wonders 4 has going for it. There are so many different ways to customize your empire, many different playstyles, many different approaches that can lead toward victory. It's a phenomenally fun game, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sponsored by Paradox. I put a lot of time into this, and I am very, very serious. I think this is going to be one of my best games of the year. Thank you all very much for watching, and again, thank you to Paradox for the sponsorship. Much appreciated. You guys can find a link in the description down below, and don't forget, the game is releasing as of May 2nd, so very, very soon. Be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.